الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. I begin by sending my deepest condolences to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, to the ulama, to the Shia, to you my brothers and sisters, on this great loss, the loss that we feel and the tragedy of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, the Imam that who we are ultimately named after, the father of our sect, rather the father of Islam, the one who we identify with, the one we go back to, and the one who made us Shia, our pride, our master, our Imam, our proof, Abu Abdullah Ja'far As-Sadiq. For his love, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we dedicate this majlis, inshaAllah, for him and for all of the Imams, alayhim salamullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sallallahu alayka ya Sayyidi wa ya Mawlaya ya Rasulallah. Peace and blessings be upon you, ya Rasulallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Habib Allah. Peace and blessings be upon you, O beloved of Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlai وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. Peace and blessings be upon you, يا أبا عبد الله الحسين. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. O you who is the ship of salvation and the path to Allah. ما خاب من تمسك بكم سادتي وأمنا من لجأ إليكم. The one who holds on to you will never go astray, and the one who follows you will be saved. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. We wish we were with you so that we may fight in between your hands and attain salvation. Assalamu alayka ya Mawlai يا صادق أهل البيت. Peace and blessings be upon you, O the truthful one of أهل البيت. السلام عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا جعفر ibn Muhammad. Peace be upon you, O my master and the son of my master, Ja'far ibn Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ya Mazlum. Assalamu alayka ya مسموم السلام عليك أيها المجهول حقه. Peace be upon you, O you who was oppressed. Peace be upon you, O you who was poisoned. Peace be upon you, O you whose value was not known. Assalamu alayka ya mawlai wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. For the love of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq, let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Sayyidah Zahra alayha salamullah, the mother of this immaculate Imam, let's have another loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And for the love of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, the one who we console on this night, let's have another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We are called Al-Ja'fariyin, the Ja'fari sect. The sect of Islam, rather, the idea about what Islam is and what comprises Islam pertaining to Ja'far As-Sadiq in the view of Ja'far ibn Muhammad As-Sadiq. And who was Ja'far As-Sadiq? He was the son of Muhammad al-Baqir, who was the son of Ali As-Sajjad, who was the son of Hussein ibn Ali, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the successor, the cousin, the son-in-law of Rasulullah, who was the messenger and the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A man who was not just known for his closeness to Rasulullah through blood, but he was known for his closeness to Rasulullah and idea and insight and outlook. A man who was respected by the enemies of his time. A man who, if he walked through the streets, he was known by the merchant, by the beggar, by the scholar, by the scientist. A man whose virtue radiated through the Islamic peninsula. A man who was regarded and revered by even the Indians, by people outside of the Islamic peninsula, by non-Muslims, rather by atheists as well. Every human being who heard the name Ja'far revered that name. And every human being that heard the word Ja'far said, the words Ja'far said, would listen. No matter what state they were in, no matter the status they were in, no matter gender, race, or even religion. This is the man that me and you identify with. And so we proudly say we are Ja'fariyin. And we are known through this man. He is our pride, our crown, our treasure. And the words that came out of his mouth gave me the religion that I have today. In each and every one of those books that you see behind me, and the books in front of me, you will always find Ja'far As-Sadiq said. Out of all of the Imams, the words of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq lived on and transcended time and generations. Shias and Sunnis alike not only revered but narrated from this man. And his work, my brothers and sisters, is helping scholars of today, whether they are scholars of religion or secular scholars of today in their respective fields. If you want to talk about the contributions of Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam, 20 minutes, 30 minutes is not enough. Books have been written, and books can be written about this topic. What he has said in the dissection and analysis of the words that Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam spoke. Tonight, my brothers and sisters, we want to do just the same. And we want to ask the question, what are the academic contributions of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. Not just religious. Academic in the secular sense, just the same. Maybe in lectures we've heard snippets of things that Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq said, or just general words or just general claims that Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam taught secular sciences and what he said. But what are the actual contributions of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam? Tonight we will analyze them in through three subjects. Number one is his secular sciences in general, his work in chemistry, physics, geology. Secondly, his contributions to philosophy. Yes, Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam contributed to philosophy, and we will see how he did. And lastly, his contribution to Islamic jurisprudence and his famous law of istishab, the law of continuity, which me and you use on a daily basis, but we don't know. We will discuss these three, inshaAllah, my brothers and sisters. But before it, Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we delve into the three areas of contribution of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, one question must be answered. And that is, why is it so weird or abnormal for us to say the academic contributions of our Imams? As in, if I was to ask you, give me one word that describes Imam Ali, probably the last word you'll say is an academic. If I was to tell you, describe for me Imam Al-Rida, the last word that you use is academic, a scholar. The first words that come to mind are religious terms, are terms that me and you grew up saying. Imam, proof of Allah, proof of Allah. Imam al-Bashar, the leader, the divine, chosen human being over all of creation. These are the words that we use to describe the Imam. And so when someone comes forward and says, I describe the Imam as an academic, to us this is something that is foreign. We hardly describe and see our Imams, our religious figures, as academics. Like, why? For this there are two reasons. Number one is external, and number two is internal. What do I mean by external? The first reason is that religion, my brothers and sisters, has always been seen as the opposition of science and scholarship and natural sciences, which is always attributed to academia. And so you find that other religions either strip the two, put the two on different playgrounds altogether, and look at their religion and describe their figures in this very fairy tale-like description, and give their religious figures this very fairy tale-like aura, especially some of the Christians and Buddhists or Hindus, where you find that God or their religious figures are depicted in a very cartoonish manner. Yes? So you find that this fairy tale-like aura is given to religion and religious figures altogether. And fairy tales and stories and tales just to all in themselves seem to contradict or go against or stand in the way of academia, which is not necessarily concerned with the story itself, but the authenticity of that story altogether. So you find that there's always this rift between the two. That's externally. And that external sort of aura to religion and religious figures does make its way into our minds as well. And so we don't put academia or an academic beside Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq or beside Imam Al-Hasan Al-Mujtaba. The two don't really come together in our minds, or there isn't this what we call qarn akid. We don't put the two together and sort of one brings about the other. One idea brings about the other. We seem to separate them. That's externally, how that made its way into our minds as Muslimin. Internally, my brothers and sisters, you find that religion has become tradition, and tradition has become religion. And when tradition and religion intertwine, also the fairy tale-like aspect of tradition makes its way into religion as well. And so you find that the same way people blindly follow tradition, they seem to also blindly follow religion. And when people blindly follow, that is the total opposite of the academic path or the academic way, which is to not blindly follow, to question all the time. So you find this fairy tale like aura to the Islamic figures is also created. So number one is external, from the works and the acts or the sort of the outlook of other religions on their own figures that sort of made its way into our religion as well. And internally, that we've mixed between tradition and religion, and the same closed-minded tunnel vision method of tradition where you don't question it, you just do it because your forefathers did it, makes its way into our religious method or religious understanding of these figures in history. And that's why you find that a lot of the times we tend to stumble upon this issue that we tend not to even feel like these people were historical figures. As in, how many times have you been to ziyarah, مثلا? Your first time in ziyarah. You see the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It totally changes your way that you see Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why? Because to us, again, it's like a tale, a story. When you see something of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the outside world, you actually see something tangible. That's when your outlook about Ali bin Abi Talib changes. And I've seen this so many times when we went to ziyarah, like on the ziyarah trip that I go with, you find people that say, oh my God, like, this is reality. This is real. Like, I can see it with my own eyes. I can see Tall al-Zainabi, the hill of Sayyidah Zainab. I can see how the Tall al-Zainabi, the hill of Sayyidah Zainab, overlooks the shrine of Aba Abdullah, where Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam was watching the battlefield. I can see it. And when these people come back home, when they hear the tragedy of Karbala and some of the other narrations, the events that happened in history with our Imams alayhi salam, they tend to see it differently. They tend to understand it differently than the person who has not gone to ziyarah. Because subconsciously, my brothers and sisters, we tend to stray away from the fact that these were historical figures. And we start to lean subconsciously to the idea of them just being fairy tale figures that we learn lessons from. Taking this idea away, stripping it away from our religious identity is extremely important to understand who the Imams alayhimus salam were and to really value what they did and what they gave us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Jameel. The first contribution of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam to secular sciences. A teacher, a human being, can contribute to a science of some sort in many different ways. They can write a book, they can have lectures, they can present a new theory, a new idea, or they can teach a star pupil, a student, the fundamentals of a certain subject. And then that star pupil takes these fundamentals, takes the lessons from the teacher, and broadens their own horizon and becomes the father of that modern science. You find this very same method the Imam alayhi salam used with a man by the name of Jabir ibn Hayyan. Jabir ibn Hayyan is known as the father of chemistry. Jabir ibn Hayyan wrote many books and articles and papers about his discoveries, his theories, his experiments, and specifically about alchemy. What's alchemy? Alchemy was an ancient science, an ancient science where a chemist would try to take a non-gold element, a metal of some sort, something that is not actually gold, and try to change it into gold or silver or other types of riches in a sense. Most commonly it was done to change different metals or different substances into gold. Jameel. Obviously, in today's chemistry, in today's world, we know that this is not impossible per se. Theoretically, it could maybe happen, but it's practically impossible. He wrote a lot about alchemy. He wrote a lot about changing elements to different types of elements. That is on the theoretical scope. On the practical scope, Jabir ibn Hayyan was one of the very first scientists and chemists of his age to be able to isolate certain very, very, very crucial elements or chemicals that we use on a modern day basis. For example, Jabir ibn Hayyan was able to isolate the likes of sulfuric acid, nitric acid, silver chloride, potassium carbonate. These are elements, or these are chemicals that are used in modern day plastics, fertilizers, soaps, even glass. So some of the things that we take for granted, my brothers and sisters, understand that their origins could have very well been from the likes of Jabir ibn Hayyan, which was a star pupil of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salamullah. It was said that when Jabir ibn Hayyan would walk through Bab al-Sham in Kufa and go to the gold market, all of the merchants in the market would respect and revere Jabir ibn Hayyan for his expertise. This man was a genius. And even until today, his work is analyzed. Even until today, his work is dissected, although some of his work practically is not applicable. But the method of thinking and the way that Jabir used to present his work is extremely important even until today. You look and you see Jabir ibn Hayyan coming forward and doing what others could not do, writing about others we're not even thinking about. Even as far as writing about how to create life from non-living chemicals. An idea that maybe up until today we started to think about it. Jabir ibn Hayyan was writing about it a long time ago. You say, this is Jabir ibn Hayyan, this is not Ja'far As-Sadiq. I tell you, go to the works of Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salam, and you see that Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam spoke about the origin of certain elements, how they were before they are what they are today, what their state was before, geology, and how the earth created these elements. For example, we read in the discussion of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq with a man by the name of Abu Shakir. Abu Shakir, my brothers and sisters, was a famous atheist at the time. And he would debate with the Imam alayhi salam, and the Imam ultimately would always win the debate. But he would debate with the Imam alayhi salam about various topics. They would start with God and end in geology. You know these types of people, they just want to nitpick at everything. Abu Shakir was of this type, and he died an atheist. In his discussion with Abu Shakir, the Imam alayhi salam says these words. I'm going to read the riwayah out of the barakah. For the barakah, let's have a loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Imam alayhi salam says, you don't know what a stone is and how it came to be. Today, you can handle it as you like and cut it into any shape or form. But there was a time when it was liquid in state. Gradually it cooled down and Allah solidified it. In the beginning it was quite brittle and would have broken into pieces in your hand like glass. Abu Shakir asked, was it in liquid condition before? The Imam alayhi salam says, yes it was. Abu Shakir burst into laughter. One of the students of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq got up and was angry and was about to say something, but Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq told him to stop. Abu Shakir said, I'm laughing because you say that stones are made of water. Look at the ignorance. Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq replied and said, I didn't say that they were made of water. What I said was in the beginning they were in a liquid state. Abu Shakir said, then what's the difference? The liquid and water are the same thing. The Imam alayhi salam replied, there are many liquids which are not water. Milk and vinegar are liquids, but they're not water. Although they have water content in them, in the beginning, stones were liquid like water, and they flowed like water. Gradually they cooled down. SubhanAllah, him saying the word gradually. Gradually they slowed down. It's as if the Imam alayhi salam is painting for us a picture of what actually happens when volcanoes erupt, what actually happened at when the core of the earth, which is made of iron, cooled down when it was hot iron, and it cooled down in other states of liquids when they are heated up. Gradually they cooled down and became hard so that you can cut them and make them into idols. The same hard stones will turn into liquid if they are heated. The Imam alayhi salam is speaking of a process, where in the beginning these hard elements, such as iron, Other types of metals were liquid because the temperature was extremely high. Then they cooled down. But that cooling down was gradual. Did not happen straight away. And from that you can dissect and keep going into that, and you can start speaking about how different elements and how different metals give off heat, and how different metals retain heat and give it off slowly. Where the Imam ﷺ is using the word gradual. It's not instantaneous. Similarly, the Imam ﷺ says you can make this all happen again. Just give it more temperature. Give it more temperature. You find that the Imam ﷺ is speaking about this at a time where people had no idea about any of this stuff. And at a time where the Islamic world was just starting to open up. To other countries and other cultures, and was just starting to read the books of the Indians, because this is what we called Asr al-Tarjama, started to read the books of Indian philosophers, and started to introduce themselves to different sciences. You found that the Imam alayhi salam, a man who lived in Saudi Arabia his entire life, maybe even in Medina his entire life, knows this stuff, knows these things. Similarly are the words of Imam As-Sadiq when it comes to kinetic energy and the movement of particles and human beings and all other objects in the universe. Look what he says. This is beautiful. Anybody that has studied physics, afwan. Anybody that studied physics or studied chemistry will have a good idea or a good understanding of what the Imam alayhi salam is alluding to. Here the Imam alayhi salam says these words. Nothing in the universe. There is nothing in the universe which is not in motion. There is nothing in the universe that is not in motion. Rest or motionlessness is meaningless. Has no meaning. As in, when I say something is at rest, well, that rest is relative. Rest is relative to what I see and understand, and maybe relative to another object. But in reality, the book behind me, is it at rest? No, it's not. Because maybe relative to me, it is at rest. But relative to point A and point B in the universe, it's not at rest. In two ways. Number one, the movement of the earth itself. And number two, within itself there's vibration. The Imam alayhi salam comes forward and says, in the universe itself, there's nothing called rest. Rather, rest is meaningless in the universe. If something is at rest, total rest, no vibration whatsoever, it can't exist. Or it will have a hard time existing, it will be unstable. Scientists have come forward and said, atoms, and I'm not a scientist whatsoever, but the same way that I take from the works of the scholars and I say the Imam alayhi salam has said and it's narrated, I narrate from our respective scientists. Scientists have came forward and said that atoms vibrate within themselves. The more vibration that atom has, the more energy it has. طيب, how do you give an atom energy? You increase the temperature. When heat goes up, an atom starts to vibrate much more. Jameel. What happens if I take the temperature down? They say there's a direct relationship with temperature and movement. When temperature goes down, what happens with movement and vibration? It goes down. طيب, when we get to absolute zero, when we get to the lowest possible temperature we can go, which they call absolute zero, so Kelvin zero, they come forward and they say that at that moment in time, the atom either becomes unstable or it starts to develop different types of properties. In other words, it goes out of whack. It goes out of whack. In this universe, with the fundamentals of this universe, with the limits of this universe, rest as a concept, as an idea, is meaningless. Rest or motionlessness is meaningless. Jameel. We are not at rest even when we're sleeping. We are in motion because the earth is in motion. So there's a direct relationship here. The direct relationship. You feel like you're at rest, but because you are on something that's constantly in motion, you are actually in motion. Besides, we have emotion inside of our own bodies. Inside of us there is motion. Outside of us there is motion. The atoms within us move and vibrate within themselves, and the energy they have is directly proportional with the amount of movement they have. So if there's no movement, there is theoretically no energy. If there's no energy, they cease to exist, or they become extremely unstable. I'm not a physicist nor am I a scientist, and if there's anybody in the crowd who's a scientist, they're probably laughing at me because of my inaccuracies. But the fundamental idea is correct. Inaccuracies and maybe in the words that I'm saying, or I'm using the words, but the fundamental idea is there. Jameel. This is the contribution of the Imam alayhi salam to the simple science of chemistry, geology, physics. What about philosophy? When I say the word philosophy, some people start to scratch their head from the beginning. Philosophy is one of those, it's one of those topics or one of those subjects that people, for some reason, they fear altogether. Although it's beautiful. The Imam alayhi salam ultimately mixes philosophy with religion because they go hand in hand. Philosophy is how to know the world, or the way to know the world, through the intellect, through the mind. Understanding the universe through the intellect. Jameel. Religion is more or less telling you what this world is about and the meaning behind this world. So they always go hand in hand. And so you found throughout history, and even until today, you find that the religious scholars are well versed in philosophy. No matter what religion, especially in Shia Islam, you find that our scholars are very well versed in philosophy. The Imam alayhi salam shows this direct relationship and shows us, my brothers and sisters, one of the best ways to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through your intellect and through your mind. And he answers a question that many of our brothers and sisters in universities today are struggling to answer. And that is the omnipotence paradox. What's the omnipotence paradox? It's where you present a situation that outwardly it looks like it's a contradiction. But at its core, the question itself is wrong. It's a question, for example, can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show himself to the world? If you say yes, then you've limited God, because you confined him. If you say no, he's not able to, then you've limited his omnipotence, his ability. Right? So yes and no here will pretty much, you'll hit into a wall, right? You're at a dead end. The Imam alayhi salam answers the omnipotence paradox in 3 words. Listen to what he says. وجاء إليه زنديق آخر وسأله عن أشياء قال له كيف يعبد الله الخلق ولم يروه. How do the people worship a God they have not seen? Imam As-Sadiq says رأته القلوب بنور الإيمان. The hearts have seen him through the light of faith. وأثبتته العقول بيقظتها إثبات العيان. And the intellects have proved his existence the same way that the eye proves the existence of something it sees. Subhanallah. These words are deep. We'll explain them maybe another time. But I want to get to the end. وأبصرته الأبصار بما رأته من حسن التركيب وأحكام التأليف. And the eyes have seen him, but not through him himself, but what he has created. The same way that if you want to know me, see what I have brought about and how I contributed. The effects of myself as a cause. You want to know the cause, look at the effect. And you'll know the cause. وإحكام التأليف ثم الرسل وآياتها. Then we knew him through his messengers and the signs they brought. والكتب ومحكماتها. And his books. واقتصرت العلماء على ما رأت من عظمته دون رؤيته. And the scholars, those who know, understood who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully, not by looking at him, but by seeing what he brought about, his effect. Jameel. Here's where I want me and you to pay attention. قال أليس هو قادر على أن يظهر لهم حتى يروه فيعرفونه فيعبد على يقين. This man, he says, isn't he able to come out to them, show himself to everyone, so that they may worship him through yaqeen, certainty? قال عليه السلام. This is the omnipotence paradox. Can he show himself so that they can see him and worship him? If the Imam says yes, then Allah Ta'ala is limited and confined to a body or to a form. If he says no, then Allah Ta'ala, his omnipotence, his ability, is in question. What did the Imam alayhi salam say? He says, لَيْسَ لِلْمَحَالِ جَوَابٍ For the impossible, there's no answer. What do you mean, ya Imam? Look what the Imam alayhi salam is saying. He says for a question to have an answer, the mawdu' of the question itself must have stability, must make sense within itself. The question itself must make sense. In other words, the question itself must exist. The question itself must have a place. If the question itself doesn't have a place, then the answer that comes from that question doesn't have a place either. What do I mean? I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say. I come forward and I ask you, brother or sister, you know your Ferrari in your driveway right now? Is it red or green? The Ferrari that you have in your driveway, is it red or green? One or the two. One or the other. Red or green. You have two options. Or I ask you, is the Ferrari in your driveway red? Binary question. Yes or no? Is there a third option? Can you answer in a third way? The Ferrari in your driveway, is it red? That's the question. Yes or no? It's a binary question. Binary questions are either yes or no, positive or negative, on and off. 1 or 0. Can you answer the question? No. You tell me what? I don't have a Ferrari in my driveway. Hopefully none of you guys drive a Ferrari. Well, the question doesn't make sense to you. You tell me, oh, I don't have a Ferrari. So therefore what? The question is wrong. The question is not based on a premise. There's no premise to the question. When there is no premise to the question, the answers that you give have no meaning. This situation is an impossibility. It's a contradiction because you are saying God, who is infinite, put him in a finite place and show him to me. So you're essentially saying, make the infinite finite. Is the problem with me, or is the problem with the question you're posing? The problem is the question itself. You are telling me essentially, make something exist and not exist at the same time. Who's the problem, me or you? The question you're posing is impossible. The question you're posing has no premise. Therefore, the answer is wrong. The answer is meaningless, rather. Let me give you another example. Let's say somebody comes and says, can God create a rock he can't himself lift? It's a common question. Jameel. It's omnipotence paradox. It's a similar situation. The question is wrong. Why? See that rock that God wants to create? It's as if God is trying to give that rock existence. He's saying, here, rock, I'm going to give you existence. But the rock is so unstable, it can't accept existence from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if God was giving that rock existence. The problem is not God. The God is giving existence to that rock. But the rock is a contradiction within itself. And so it can't accept the existence that God is trying to give it. The same way that if I took a piece of paper, watch. Let's say I took a piece of paper. I can't rip out a piece of paper because I have writing all over these pieces of paper. Let's say I took a piece of paper, from this notebook. Piece of paper from the notebook. Okay? And I threw this piece of paper right now. I tried to throw it across the room. Where is this piece of paper going to land? Right in front of me. I threw it, it literally ran right in front of me. But if I take my marker, for example, and I throw it, it landed all the way across the room. I tried to give the piece of paper the same amount of force as the marker. The marker landed across the room, but the piece of paper landed in front of me. Am I the problem, or is it the object I'm trying to throw? In both situations, I gave the same amount of force, but one landed across the room and one landed right in front of me. Why? Is there a problem with me as the giver? The problem is with the object. This rock that we are saying will exist for God to lift it or not lift it cannot exist. Therefore, lifting it or non-lifting does not work. The question about whether it could be lifted or not is wrong because this object can't exist. Even, as we say, بعالم الفرض, even in imagination. Even in the world of imagination. It can't accept existence in the conditions that you are implying. Subhanallah al-Azim wa bihamdih. 3 words. 3 words. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Lastly, his contribution to jurisprudence. I don't want to take too long. I already took 40 minutes. But lastly is the contribution to jurisprudence. The contribution of Imam As-Sadiq to jurisprudence is known to everyone. Known to everyone. Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam would sit and have scholars under his pulpit. He would sit and teach the religion of Rasulullah. The religion that came down to Rasulullah, he would teach it. And he would give them the fundamentals. And not just say Rasulullah said. Rather, he would give them fundamentals for them to apply. A famous hadith from Imam As-Sadiq is that we will give you the usul and you will branch them off. We will give you the source, the trunk of the tree essentially. And it's now on you to branch off and to apply these fundamentals in other places. Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam is the father of modern day usul, modern day jurisprudential theory, where the ulama, our scholars of different sects, and our scholars today as well, analyze the words of Imam As-Sadiq to the T, to come forward and write down the rules that we follow in deriving the ahkam, the rulings that we have today. One of the most famous of those rules is Qa'adatul Istishab. What's Qa'adatul Istishab? The law of continuity. Simple rule, but so powerful. Listen, the law of continuity says this. If you have certainty, you can't negate that certainty with doubt. لا تنقض اليقين بالشك. Sayyid Muhammad Baqir Al-Sadr, in his halaqat, he narrates, he says, في صحيحة زرارة, the صحيحة, the hadith that is صحيح from زرارة, لا ينقض اليقين بالشك. Certainty is not negated with doubt or by doubt. Simple idea, simple concept, but so powerful. Look how powerful it is. The table that I'm sitting on, or the TV that you're watching me from right now, is it tahir or najis? Let's say you didn't know. You didn't know. I ask you, is it tahir or najis? You didn't know. You tell me, well, I didn't see najasa on it. I tell you, okay, then you have certainty that it was tahir. Now you're doubting if it became najis. What do you consider it to be? Tahir. The ground that we walk on. Everyone for some reason thinks the ground is always najis. Everyone thinks the ground is always najis. Jameel, okay, one second. The ground that we walk on. No, I'm not saying that your ground specifically is najis. You might, or tahir. You might have seen that it become najis. But I'm saying, in your house, the ground, did you see najasa fall on the ground? No. Okay. So you have yaqeen that it did not become najis. Now you're doubting if it became najis. So what do you go with? The certainty that you had and that it did not become najis. So you consider it to be what? Tahir. You doubt. Did I do my salat or not? Did I pray or not? That's tahara, salat. Come to salat. You ask yourself, did I do salat? Did I pray or not? Jameel. It's salat time right now. So there's an obligation of salat on your shoulders. And you have yaqeen, certainty that there's an obligation on your shoulders in the form of salat. Yaqeen, certainty. You doubt, did I lift that burden off my shoulders? Did I do the salat? What do we go by? We go back to the certainty. And that is that you didn't pray. You still have the obligation on your shoulders. You still have the taklif on your shoulders. Let me explain that one more time. You are for sure, you're sure that now there is salat that's wajib on your shoulders. There's salat that's wajib on you. There's a taklif. Jameel. You doubted. Did I pray or not? Did I pray? That's doubt. Jameel. I have doubt in the form of prayer. Did I pray? That's the doubt. And I have yaqeen, certainty that there is an obligation on my shoulders. What do I go back to? The law of continuity says you go back to the certainty that you have. And that is, the obligation is still on your shoulders. And you must pray to lift that obligation. So you must pray. The law of continuity, qa'adatul istishab, is used so much by our scholars and is one of the fundamental, rather the most powerful law that our ulama have. And what did Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam say? He said 4 words. وَلَا يُنْقَضُ الْيَقِينَ بِالشَّكِّ. 4 words. 4 words make up your jurisprudence. This is the power of our imams. See, this is the difference, my brothers and sisters. 2 minutes and I'm done. This is the difference. With others, they have to write books. With our imams, they have to say 2 words. 3 words. Rasulullah, Man kuntu mawla fa aliyun mawla. Fahada aliyun mawla. That's it. That's it. As-Sadiq, la yunqadu al-yaqeen bil-shak. That's it. As-Sadiq, laysa lil-mahali jawab. That's it. That's it. And from these words, you can write volumes of books. The first one that I said, Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. Go. There you go. That right over there, I'm pointing to a book by the name of Al-Ghadir. Mawsu'at Al-Ghadir. The Encyclopedia of Al-Ghadir by Allama Al-Amini. Which is what? Maybe 20 volumes that I can see from here. 20 volumes. Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. 20 volumes. Al-Istishab. Al-Istishab. Some of these books, 15 volumes. 10 volumes. 5 volumes. Whatever. Volumes after volumes after volumes have been written about Istishab. And the applications of Istishab. Which is law of continuity. Books of philosophy discussing the omnipotence paradox. Volumes, 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 articles, papers, books. 3 words. This is the value of our Imams. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the right of our Imams, to make us from those who learn from them, take from them, and ultimately gain their intercession on the Day of Judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this little from us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our salat, to accept our a'mal, to forgive us for the sins that we have committed, to make us from those who follow in the footsteps of Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq, to make us from the lovers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, بحق Muhammad wa alihi الطيبين الطاهرين. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this little from us, to accept our majlis by the right of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad and by the right of as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli.